Hey, what's going, y'all? It is yours truly once again. So my thoughts on manipulation. If you were to look up manipulation, one of the definitions is going to be to control, to handle something. Basically a tool, so that's that aspect of manipulation is something that you can control like a tool. And then the other definition of manipulation is to cleverly influence somebody, kind of in a way of disguise, just more or less kind of threw them off with the way you had to lead them, if that makes sense. So that's the second definition of manipulation. So in that regard, when I think of overall, the whole idea of manipulation, and that it kind of goes back to the engineering world of things. I mean, in regards to the masculine and the feminine, you see all this as well. So hear me out on this. With that said, from what I've noticed, I would say there's like two forms of manipulation that I've noticed in the engineering world. There's actually three forms of manipulation. So let me try to see if I can think about this right away. The first form is like a weld. If you weld in a metal together with another metal using a welding machine, that's like one way of manipulation. So basically you're putting two metals together with the weld in order to develop a bond. So all this obviously was manipulated to be, okay? And then a second form of manipulation is to screw two things together, to put them together in order to develop a bond, okay? And then I think of the third way, which is based on you. There's a couple of different ways. Using electrolysis, applying heat to two metals to melt them together in order for them to bond that way. So there's several different ways of manipulation. So as you can see, if you were to relate this to the gender aspect of things, there's a lot of different ways you can really get at an individual to get them to kind of do what you want them to do, whether they are aware of it or not. A lot of different games you can play, right? That's manipulation. Yours truly does not believe in manipulation, by the way. So we'll get on with all this because I'm somewhere different with this. When you think of manipulation, it has a lot of mechanical aspects to it. A lot of engineering, just pretty much kind of technological, I guess, if you want to call it that. Manipulation is from that standpoint. But, with that said, that's why you get a lot of different technical ideas as far as how the masculine and the feminine genders deal with each other. So before I continue on, I just want to say that just think you got to go through a lot of stresses in order to have a bond. In regards to the mechanical side of things, when you're engineering things, when you're putting things together, or even when you are destroying things with your manipulation, given the tools that you're using for the job. A lot of stresses in that, right? And the same is true in regards to how the feminine and the masculine interact in regards to manipulation. A lot of stresses go into that too. I don't know about y'all. I don't like the stress. I don't like the stress at all, okay? So I do things differently. Since I'm not about manipulation, I'm about this instead. I'm about molding, okay? Because here's the thing. I'd rather mold a woman than to manipulate her, okay? Molding a woman, okay? So here's where I'm at with this. As I said before, you have to manipulate things in order to develop a bond. You have to mold things in order to develop a form, okay? That's right. So I'm all about not a woman bonding to me. I'm more so about a woman forming to me. Yes, indeed. And the funny thing is, like with pottery, it's similar to like metals that have to also go through heat in regards to being manipulated in order to bond. But with a pottery, with let's say a pot, when it goes through heat, it's based on the fact that it was previously molded. So now it's ready to go through the kiln. It's ready to go through heat, not to deal with the stresses of being manipulated. But it's actually going through the stages of being formed, which is not a stress, it's a stage. Okay. In order for that pottery to be truly formed, it has to go through that stage of heat in order to be formed, instead of going through that stress of heat in order to be bonded. Okay. Now this really can open up so many different avenues with what I just said. And that's why yours truly does not believe in manipulation. Never had a need for it. Okay. Because since manipulation represents more of an engineering, mechanical side of things, molding represents more of a natural, artistic side of things. It just flows better. You know what I'm saying? I want her to be formed. I want her to be molded by me. But it's all based on her willingness. So because of her willingness, guess what? There's less stress. Okay. So anytime I think a man has to go through things with a female, as far as any stress, that's because she's not willing to be formed to you, bro. She's not willing to be molded by you, because she's probably been used to stresses of being manipulated prior to getting around you. Just saying.